are made of single words. Flocks are made of single birds. Crowds are sometimes fun, but friends come one by one. The sun has single rays, of course.
The month has single days, of course.
Although a book may be completer, the shorter story often is the sweeter. A novel I once read for days, yet the only thing that stays in my head's a single phrase. There's nothing so sublime as one great minute. One great minute. One great minute of time. Sneeze is over very fast,
But some minutes seem to last.
a home run off a bat happens just like that. You can jog throughout the winter, but people only cheer a sprinter. You can have a swell December,
Still, it's Christmas, all of us remember.
this little ditty took all night for us to figure out and write. Every word was torture, but you got the final rhyme in one great minute. One great minute. One great minute of time. A farmer was pulling up sweet potatoes when one of the sweet potatoes said,
Oh, sure. Now you want to pull me up and sell me, but all the time I was growing, you hardly gave me any water.
Farmer said, who said that? And his dog said, it was the sweet potato, you silly farmer. Farmer had never heard of a talking sweet potato or a talking dog, so he tried to pull a big branch from a tree to protect himself, but the tree said, oh, no, you don't. You can't take a branch from me to use as a stick. For years you've been enjoying my shade without once saying thank you. The frightened farmer ran all the way to the king's castle, and he said, first a sweet potato talked to me, and then a dog, and then a tree. I think, said the king, you have been in the sun too long, and he waved the farmer away. Well, after the farmer left, the king pulled up his favorite chair, and the chair said,
Can you be believing that, farmer? Who ever heard of a talking sweet potato? A brother and sister had to share what was left after their parents died. Both wanted the cow. Neither wanted the cat. The cat wailed to the sister, Take me, and we'll both have a happy ending.
So she did. In the forest, the cat said,
Hide your ragged clothing under that bush, sis.
and then the cat ran to the nearby castle shouting,
A princess from a neighboring kingdom has been robbed of absolutely everything.
The queen and her son, the prince, upset that such a terrible thing should happen to a princess, sent beautiful clothing and invited them in, but the queen did not believe that that girl was really a princess. So under a bed made of piles of pillows, the queen hid a bean. She said, A real princess used to comfort will feel this bean. But the cat was watching and told the girl. The next morning, the girl said,
I felt like there was a rock under my bed.
that convinced the queen that the girl was a real princess,
And the son married the princess.
and the cat had the run of the kingdom. A farmer lifted his young son onto a donkey, and they set off for town. But on the way, they passed some old men who said,
Why is that healthy young boy riding while his poor father walks? That's no way to do it.
Embarrassed, the farmer made the boy walk, and he rode instead. But then they passed some women who said, A grown man riding while the child walks? That's no way to do it. So he lifted the boy onto the donkey with him, and they rode together. But they passed some children who shouted,
Two people riding on one little animal. That's no way to do it.
So they both got off the donkey, they tied his legs together, slung him on a pole, and carried him toward town. But as they were crossing a bridge, the donkey squirmed and knocked them off balance, and they all fell kerplunk into the river.
Boy, that farmer's mistake was trying to please everybody.
There's no way to do that.
So you might as well please yourself.
Uh-huh. A little boy was on his way home with only an egg and some salt in his pocket when suddenly a giant jumped out from behind a tree and said,
I'm gonna eat you up.
Well, the boy, who was small but smart, said,
You're strong, Giant, but so am I. Oh, let's see who's the strongest.
The giant snorted,
You're no bigger than a blade of grass. I'll mow you down. On with the contest.
So the boy picked up the egg from his pocket into the palm of his hand where the giant couldn't see it, picked up a rock and said,
I could squeeze water out of this rock, could you?
and then he squeezed the egg and the rock together until the egg broke. Of course, the giant thought that the wet stuff came from the rock. And then the boy secretly snuck some salt into the palm of his hand, picked up a rock and said,
I could turn this rock to salt.
he squeezed and let the salt pour out. And then he turned to the giant and he said,
Now give me your hand and I'll squeeze it to mud.
but the giant said, oh, no, you won't. And he ran away, never to bother that particular small, smart boy again.
Shari, why do I have to wash before eating while cats wash after meals?
Ah, there once was a polite pussycat who was very proud of having good manners. One day, he caught a sparrow for his dinner. How do you do? He said politely to the bird. Please excuse me for eating you up, but I'm hungry. And he was about to pop that sparrow into his mouth,
Feathers and all?
when suddenly the sparrow spoke. My dear sir, a really polite pussycat would not eat before washing his hands and face. If you were truly a courteous cat, you'd wash first, too. The cat agreed. He put down the bird and began to lick his paws, but the minute he let go of the bird, it flew away. And the cat had to do without dinner. He was so mad at being tricked by that spunky sparrow that he said, as long as I live, I will eat first and wash after. And that's what he taught all his children to do.
And that's what all cats do to this very day.
Mm-hmm. Rapunzel lived in a room with no doors atop a tall tower, raised by a witch. Rapunzel had the longest hair in the world. The witch would say, Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your long hair. And Rapunzel would lower her braid out the window, and the witch would climb up the braid. A prince saw the witch do this, and after the witch had left, the prince said, hey, Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your long hair. He climbed her braid, and they became friends. He promised to return and rescue her, but the witch, watching in her crystal ball, became furious. She cut off Rapunzel's hair. She nailed it to the windowsill and dangled the braid out the window. And then she cast a spell over Rapunzel, who suddenly found herself living far from anywhere. When the prince climbed the braid, the witch cursed him and took away his sight. For years he wandered the earth, but one day when he was far from anywhere, there was Rapunzel. She cried with happiness. Her tears fell on his eyes, broke the spell, and their friendship flourished.
Mary had a little lamb, his fleece was white as snow, and everywhere that Mary went, the lamb was sure to go. It followed her to school one day, which was against the rule. It made the children laugh and play to see a lamb at school.
And so the teacher turned it out, but still it lingered near, and waited patiently about till Mary should appear.
I don't know this part.
That day, as these things happen, there was a heavy snow. The snow fell 4 feet off the ground, and on the lamb, you know. All that morning and through lunch, the snow fell on, and when at last the school let out, they thought the lamb was gone. The teacher said lambs shouldn't be at school. That's what this proved, when suddenly a bat was heard, and what seemed snowflakes moved. And all at once, as Mary looked, she got a great surprise. The snow had magically developed 2 enormous eyes.
It was the lamb.
Okay, your lamb can stay, the teacher stated. And from that day, the lamb attended school.
It graduated.
A sad princess never laughed. So her father, the king, said, anyone who can make my daughter laugh can take her for his wife. Many men tried. Nobody could. Well, in that town, a boy named Dummling lived, and he had a golden goose. And one day, Dummling was walking with the goose tucked under his arm when a robber tried to grab the magic goose away from him. But the minute the robber touched the goose, he stuck to the goose. The robber's girlfriend tried to pull the robber loose from the goose. She stuck to the robber. A policeman tried to stop them. He stuck to the girl. At that moment, the sad princess was looking out of her window, and she happened to see Dummling with the goose tucked under his arm. The robber stuck to the goose. The girl stuck to the robber. The policeman stuck to the girl. And it was such a funny sight, she laughed and laughed. And her laughter filled the castle. And when the king heard it, Dummling got to marry the princess. And for all I care, the robber and the girl and the policeman are still stuck to that sticky golden goose.